I never took a sponsorship. And I had at the time in my DMs offers from like FTX, BlockFi, like all these companies that I'm very glad that I didn't do anything with, but it's just very hard. And this is one of the reasons why I ended up not doing the newsletter anymore, is that it's very hard to get advertisers that you feel comfortable with putting next to your name in the space. Tend to pay the most are, the unsavory ones, straight up scams, or they're just like gambling. Yeah,
Yeah.
just for me, it was just kind of going, if anything, like overly conservative. Like I definitely left a lot of money on the table that I could have done without really like sacrificing my values too much. But it was always with like that long-term vision that, you'll get it back tenfold if you just maintain that like, crystal clear reputation.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode. Today, we're chatting with Giancarlo, who is a content creator who's found a lot of success with his YouTube channel, Giancarlo buys tokens, and his newsletter, Mint or Skip. We had a great chat about the state of NFTs, the process and journey from being a content creator in the crypto space, and Giancarlo's thoughts on how to curate and onboard the next generation of artists and creators to the space. He's also been researching and auctioning memes, and we aren't talking about meme coins. We're talking about actual memes, where Giancarlo's researchers finds the creators and helps them bring their memes to the blockchain as NFTs. His auctions sell for thousands of dollars, and he tells us why he's doing that. Thanks again for tuning in, and remember to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast and the newsletter. We're live. Hello, Giancarlo. So great to have you in the show.
Hey man, how's it going? Yeah, thanks for having me. Been following your stuff for a long time.
Me too. I think your YouTube channel, Giancarlo buys tokens, it was one of the first, places where I consume content about the space, Web3 and NFTs all around. And I know it's challenging to create content in this space, but I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a bit, Giancarlo, what led you to creating that channel, and maybe way back, and how you discover NFTs and crypto in general?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, in many ways, I've been covering digital economies for pretty much my entire career, even before I got into NFTs. My first job out of college was as a stock analyst, where I was covering the video game companies, so like EA and Activision. And it was at a time when they were moving from selling physical copies of like Call of Duty or FIFA to selling in-game content, map packs, skins. And no one really understood why people were spending money on those things. And I had to essentially explain to hedge fund managers why, Fortnite skins were making billions of dollars all of a sudden and things like that. And so, I did that for a while and different jobs within, covering video game and digital research. And so when I got to NFTs in early 2021, I think, the Beeple sale was maybe the first thing that really came to my attention. I was already in crypto before that, just, buy and hold Bitcoin and Ethereum type of investor. But then when I saw NFTs, it really clicked for me pretty quickly that this was the next evolution or continuation of what we were seeing in video games, and just people valuing digital objects more and more. And so, yeah, that was early 2021. And so I figured, I want to get into this space. And I want to get involved, but there weren't really that many companies hiring. And so I was like, all right, I'll make content on it and learn as I make content. And Twitter at the time which is funny because it was such a small group, but it felt saturated. Like there were a lot of people already creating content, and I didn't know how to make a distinctive voice on there. While on YouTube, there was basically nothing. I think there was just maybe one channel, DCL blogger, who was making videos mostly around Decentraland, but really nobody covering like digital art, profile pics, things like that. And so, yeah, I just started making videos, just covering individual projects. I think one of my first videos was like on VFriends. And so I just did like a deep dive on VFriends. I went into the VFriend Discord, and I just started to like share my link with people. And yeah, from there, it just kept going. And I think I picked up that wave of interest that came into NFTs all that year. And then, yeah, it got pretty big during the height of it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, your videos had thousands of views. You have how many subscribers did you reach in your channel?
Over 100,000. I think I might still have that, but definitely losing subscribers like by the day. Just
It,
people, yeah.
it's a thing with the space. Like the hype moves everything, right? And you need to adapt, right? And when it comes to NFTs, and so you mentioned you were analyzing stocks for gaming companies. So you think that helped you to have a kind of a clear understanding of NFTs and applied some of those concepts to investing in NFTs and analyzing, researching projects? You think that played a big part of it?
I mean, certainly it allowed me to bring that kind of mindset. Yeah, because these things are, at the time we were looking at it as like digital art, but they were clearly also assets and they, had a lot of the same investing principles in the sense of like, especially when they became like roadmap PFPs, in the sense of like, okay, what is the vision? Who's the creator? What are the tokenomics? It became, more like analyzing businesses, although you're not actually buying the equity or anything. So it's kind of like LARPing as business
Yeah.
investing. But a lot of people were looking at it through that lens. And so I think that's why my content, it found a place for them. And I'm not like an art curator at heart. I think as I've been in the space, I started to appreciate art more and more of the subjective side of it. But at the beginning, yeah, I was coming at it straight as like a financial
Mm.
analyst. And I think over time, I lost some of that and blended a little bit more with just understanding social sentiment.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's about evolving right in the space. I think the same happened for me in a way. You kind of find what you like, and you also take into consideration what's happening, what's hot, and you try to find the in between, right? Between what you like, what's hot, and what people want to see. In terms of YouTube, Giancarlo, so what was the experience like creating videos on YouTube, then getting thousands of views, and how will you? What are the pros and cons of having a YouTube channel and getting a lot of people watching your content?
Yeah. So when I made my YouTube channel, it was the first. I've never done YouTube before. I've done a couple of videos here and there, but never like in a serious way. And it doesn't have a great reputation. I don't know if you know this, but like crypto YouTube in general, there's a lot of scam channels. There's a lot of pump and dumps, and I don't think I had that much of a clear understanding that was the reputation. Yeah, coming in, I felt like I had to go above and beyond in terms of like holding on to the integrity of the channel. I think a lot of people just assume the worst. And so there was a lot of negative feedback kind of from the get-go. There's a lot of positive, and most of it's always positive, but it's just the small minority of negative stuff that tends to stick out. But I think having a YouTube channel in general is better during a bull market, I would say. And the reason, I haven't been making videos recently is because, nobody's Googling NFTs anymore. Nobody's searching for that. That might change in the future, but at the time, there was a lot of people just inputting NFT into their search bar on YouTube. And so really when the space is growing and a lot of new people are starting to learn about something, that's where they're going to come from. They're going to come from YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. And then when things are like stabilized and we're sort of like in a slow period, they concentrate on Twitter. And that's where everyone is. But definitely, I think if we are in that upswing, YouTube is one of the best ways, or it has been one of the best ways. Maybe in the future it won't with like AI and everything, but it has been one of the best ways of capturing the incoming attention from new participants, I think.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen the same thing with the newsletter. Traffic during bear markets is basically no traffic, right? And then, as you said, people not Googling stuff, not Googling NFT projects, not Googling a specific, projects or content. So it makes a lot of, yeah, it's a big difference. But what I've seen, because I've been following you for a while, I mean, you kept creating stuff, right, in different ways. I think all related to media in a way, and different sort of mechanisms in the NFT space. So Mentor Skip is a newsletter that I was receiving on a daily basis. So I think that was kind of the next project. Can you tell us a bit about Mentor Skip and the experience of, creating now a more of a publication compared to creating videos? Is it a big difference? What were the pros and cons in this case for comparing newsletters to YouTube videos?
yeah. So one of the issues with YouTube is that you're always trying to hit the largest possible audience with your videos. And so because of that, at least for me with NFTs, I tended to have the topics had to be like universal topics, almost like how to get into NFTs or how to find the right NFTs or, really high level topics that would apply to everyone that was searching for those, just for NFTs. But I always wanted to drill down more into individual projects and do more curation and reviews of maybe niche drops, niche creators, niche artists that if I had put those as a video, number one, I'd get just called a shiller. Like if I'm talking about an artist that has very few sales, like they're just gonna assume that I own most of the supply and I'm pumping and dumping. But number two, it just wouldn't get that many views because that's just not how YouTube works. It's really hard to drill down. And so that was one of the reasons why I wanted to branch out of YouTube. And so I created a newsletter. And another reason was that I felt that NFT curation was really poor at the time, a really weak part about the space. I still think it has a lot that can be improved. But at the time, it was difficult to find out what was coming out in terms of drops and really have like an unbiased opinion on them. And so you had all these like calendar websites, NFT calendar, 100 variations of that. And they would tell you sort of what's coming, but there weren't really any filters. So they would include a lot of these scams, which at the time were like, 98%, 99% of this was junk and just straight up scams, fiber scams. So they would include that. And it was just a very noisy sort of tool way of approaching drops. And so I wanted to create something that filtered a lot of that and gave more opinion, like straight up opinionated, subjective takes. And it was sort of take it or leave it. We know that in this space, it's really hard to prove that you're not biased. But I think with the reputation that I built with YouTube, there was enough people that sort of knew where I was coming from and that, I wasn't just looking for a quick buck and to scam people. And so I thought the newsletter was maybe the best way of approaching that topic. And so, it was an NFT curation newsletter where we would go through all these upcoming drops and then just filter them down to our favorites and then have a calendar of those favorites, sort of our editor picks. We got to the point where it was daily just because there was so many drops happening. And it was pretty cool how we set up the funnel. So the way we did it was we had a Discord with a bot in the Discord where people could drop Twitter links to upcoming drops. So that's all they had to do is just give us Twitter links. And if one of those projects ended up in the newsletter, we gave them passes. We had this like membership pass. And so we would give them stuff that they could actually sell on a secondary market. And so it was this crowdsourced sort of curation at the top of the funnel. And then that would give us a whole bunch of links. As you can imagine, there was a bunch of stuff coming out. And then we would just filter that by getting rid of anything that was anonymous. I didn't have like, verifiable social media profiles attached to it. And then what was left, we would narrow that down even further to like maybe 5 drops that we would talk about every day. And that was sort of how we did it.
Yeah, and I followed your newsletter, and I mean, it was interesting because you could see how the whole space evolved into, early on, there were more PFPs, there were more like projects, like memberships, but at some point, there was a lot of art, right? Generative art, AI art. So it was a great way to see how everything was evolving into this more like fine art. Is that something you notice as well, Giancarlo, how kind of, you could say digital art became like more sustainable than other things when it comes to NFTs?
That was a funny part about the space is just covering all these different genres in one place was a challenge for us. Just because, originally a lot of the people in NFTs, if not most, were there because of profile pics, right? Like that's what brought all the attention. And so everything that I started media-wise, that was always the original majority audience, whether it was YouTube or the newsletter. And so, from the get-go, there was a lot of people that just wanted to hear about profile pics, which kind of meant they just wanted to hear about like short-term flips and that you had to sort of cater to that to some degree, but we didn't want to just stick to that narrow space. And so we did include fine art, we did include AI art, and you had the profile pics. You pretty much had anything that was an NFT. Gaming was in there. And so it was this kind of hodgepodge of all these different genres. And, in terms of sustainability, I think it's hard to say. I mean, in most cases, the majority haven't fared well. The majority of the collections in profile pics, in fine art and whatever you pay gaming, they've all gone basically to zero or fully liquid now. And so it's hard for me to say this one, if it just stuck to this group of collections, you would have just done well. The chances are, no matter what you stuck to, you've gotten burned. But, Profile Pic certainly was probably the most dramatic in terms of how quickly and how sharply it fell off. And so I think, we got to a point where we were basically stopped covering them because there was just so much toxicity within that. And there were so many false promises. And you don't want to get, when you're creating a media platform, you don't want to get involved in that because people always pull up the receipts a year later and say like, oh, you spoke, even if you just gave like a neutral review of something, they would just be like, you mentioned this, therefore you were part of the cabal that propped up this thing that later on just blew up.
And how do you deal with that? Because I think it's a recurrent topic. Once you get a voice and once you develop an audience, everybody is, thinking just what you described, right? Like, okay, so Giancarlo is talking about this project because he probably has a back. How do you what's your mental model to deal with those things when you produce content these days?
I mean, I think you have to assume that you're always going to get some of that. So if you think you're going to have a 100% track record in terms of support public sentiment, you're just wrong. And this really hit for me when I saw even Zach XPT just getting all these haters on whatever they're posting. And I was like, wow, if even Zach, who's like just finding all these criminals, yeah, like he's just kind of a superhero in the space. If even he can't avoid all this hate and toxicity from just anonymous Twitter accounts, then nobody really stands a chance. And once you understand that, then, take some of the edge off. But really the only way, I think, is through building your reputation slowly over the course of years and really trying not to make any false moves. And that's really the only way. And so like with YouTube, for example, I never took a sponsorship. And I had at the time in my DMs offers from like FTX, BlockFi, like all these companies that I'm very glad that I didn't do anything with, but it's just very hard. And this is one of the reasons why I ended up not doing the newsletter anymore, is that it's very hard to get advertisers that you feel comfortable with putting next to your name in the space. The ones that tend to pay the most are, the unsavory ones, straight up scams, or they're just like gambling. Yeah. Just for me, it was just kind of going, if anything, like overly conservative. Like I definitely left a lot of money on the table that I could have done without really like sacrificing my values too much. But it was always with like that long-term vision that, you'll get it back tenfold if you just maintain that like, crystal clear reputation.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen, as you said, so I get a lot of requests that are scams, and the what I'm afraid of is that sometimes they aren't trying to scam me. They want to scan my audience, right? So everything looks very legit, and they just are trying for me to share like a scammy link or a scammy banner or whatever. So I also had a couple of people that helped me reviewing these links and this stuff who got scammed while reviewing these projects, right? So it's a very complicated space in terms of doing stuff with companies and advertisers in general. So Giancarlo, I think you have been working on something, and this goes back to the newsletter days, Mentorship days, and you're focusing on auctions for memes, right? So this is a very specific, specific. Yeah, I think you have I read on Twitter, a meme auctioneer or something like that. Yeah. So how did you end up in this specific format, which I think you have been very successful?
Thank you. Yeah. So, as part of what we were doing with Mentorship, which was like more media curation, we sort of decided that we want to go a little deeper than that. And we started to work with creators directly to launch things in the market. And that was going to be our business model as opposed to advertising. And so the idea was that the way we would do that is through auctions, where I would do sort of live streamed or just, somehow involving video, which was my background. We would do these events, these like just fun events around auctions, around drops, and we would work with creators, and so we would kind of bring attention and excitement to the launch, and that would be like a differentiator for those drops. And so I started to do that with just crypto native artists. Like I worked with Fellowship, we did one with Nice Aunties, and so I did a couple of those. But I kind of realized that the value add, there are many people targeting the same artists in the space, like they're or at least at the time. Now there's a lot of galleries falling off. But maybe a year and a half ago, there were a ton of galleries that were targeting the same 50 artists, let's say, in the space that mattered. And it was just very hard to give a value proposition that was way better than those galleries were providing. And so what I ended up doing instead was I started to focus outside of the crypto native space and started to reach out to Web2 creators and to see if I could work with them to bring their objects, if you want to call it, not now they're mostly memes, but whatever they had made to the blockchain. And so the way that this really in practice ended up, it was me working with meme creators.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was just like, okay, let me find the most viral, the most well-known objects, pieces of art, pieces of internet culture that are not on an NFT yet. And let me just reach out, try to find the original creator, and we'll auction it on Foundation or whatever. And then I'll reach out to people who had previously purchased memes and just see what I can do there. And it ended up being kind of a success from the beginning. And so, every few weeks I've been doing these auctions where, I bring a meme. And so I've done Vibecat. I've done a couple like TikToks that are popular on crypto Twitter. I did this one, cartoon from the New Yorker. So it's been sort of a variety of different objects, but really sticking to like, okay, what are things that were undoubtedly a part of internet culture over the last couple of decades, and selling them as one-of-ones. And so I haven't really been doing any meme coin stuff, but yeah, and the value add for them was, these creators tend to not know really anything about NFTs. And so it's hard for them to, even if they wanted to sell it, it's hard for them to figure out how to. And even if they did figure out how to, it's also hard for them to verify in many cases that they were the original creator behind the piece. And then also to bring attention to it. And so, yeah, I've just been helping them with all that front end stuff and the marketing and the verification. And again, using my reputation for the verification, because sometimes the proof isn't all publicly available. With some of the collectors that I work with, it's gotten to the point where they trust that I'm doing the due diligence and that I'm not scamming them in some way. And so some credibility, lends well to this model as well.
Why should collectors care about memes? And in this, I think it's important to you mentioned it, but to make clear that you are dealing with memes, not meme coins, right? So it's way different. So you are bringing these memes as an NFT to the blockchain, doing the due diligence with the creators, the original creators, and then selling them as options, as NFTs, right? Which is totally different from meme coins, which is a kind of a different game completely, right? So why should collectors care about memes, Giancarlo?
Yeah, it's funny because we saw some of this in 2021, right? There were huge meme sales around the time that everything was starting to blow up, and even then, I think there was a lot of confusion around that. Both outside of NFTs, it's like ridiculed, right? Like, oh my God, people are buying this old YouTube video for $300,000. How stupid can you be? And even within NFTs, most people kind of share that opinion where it's like, okay, I'm okay buying this like monkey with a hat or whatever, this tiger profile pic, but I'm definitely not going to buy this thing that was massively popular on the internet 5 years ago. Like, so there's very few people that so far have been into this genre. I would say just a handful of collectors have spent let's say over $5,000 on something that you would call a meme NFT. So it's a very, very tiny collector base as it is. But I think the genre itself could prove to be very valuable over time. And so, the thesis here is basically that you have internet culture from, 1995 to like 2015-ish, 2019, like right before NFTs started to become a thing. And you had everything in there, art, videos, text, memes, whatever kind of object you could think of that made up the internet culture in those 2 decades. And virtually none of it has come on chain, maybe 1%, even including everything that was minted in 2021. And most of it won't ever come on chain. And so why won't it come on chain? One is, you can't really find the creator anymore. And so I'll give you sort of like the checklist for like what I find, what I'm looking for when I'm trying to auction something. Mm-hmm. One is that it has to be somewhat well known, right? It went viral at some point. 2 is that it has to not have copyrighted material. So you can't have like SpongeBob memes or anything like that. And that's actually a significant portion of of
Memes.
memes. It
Yeah.
has some copyrighted screenshot from a film or something. So you can't sell that. And then three, it has to have a creator that you can find. A lot of the stuff was posted from anonymous accounts. A lot of it was posted from accounts that have shut down, from websites that have shut down. Things like Funny Junk, all these websites that just don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And people at the time, there was no way to get paid for your meme. So no one really cared about that, the account that they used to originally make these things. They would forget their passwords. And so in the vast majority of cases, they're just lost to time. In some cases, the creator has passed away. You know, it's been years since a lot of the stuff has come out. And so when you actually look at like the number of objects that could come on chain and that I think will eventually come on chain, you're really just talking about maybe a few hundred items at most, definitely not 1,000. And so that's like, you know, when you think of like collection size and you think about how many profile pics, let's just go with profile pics, how many multi-thousand item profile pic collections are out there. It's kind of sort of a normal thing now to think of that, of collections being that big. But if you take all of internet culture in the first 2 decades of the internet, you're talking about less than maybe 500 pieces that will ever be on chain. And so, you know, over time, I think people will, you know, if you believe that NFTs are going to be around for many decades, people will look at that and those will start to look like, you know, archaeological pieces of the
Yeah.
internet from
Yeah.
the genesis of internet culture. And right now, really nobody's paying attention. So I think a lot of it does go for a lower value than what you would expect. The other thing I like about these early memes is that I think with everything that's going to happen with AI, and we could talk about that, I think collectors will. I mean, it's possible that they'll put a premium on things that come from humans that are maybe like handmade, because
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be a minority of all the content pretty soon. And really, you can't guarantee that something, or it's very hard to guarantee that something actually was made by a person
Yeah.
nowadays. And maybe we'll get to a point where it's just impossible to do so. But for everything from those first 2 decades of the internet, it's pretty much a guarantee that it was made by a human, that it wasn't made with AI. And so in terms of like verifying that, it becomes sort of a time capsule for like human
Mm.
culture that
Before AI.
during a time when it
Yeah.
dominated the internet, which I don't think we'll never see again.
Yeah. It's basically the space in between the start of the internet and the start of AI, right? So there are these memes, then eventually it will become very hard to, yeah, to really validate if something was made by a human, right? And then you could say you own the AI that created it, but that's a different game. That's maybe not as interesting as you being the one creating it. That's really exciting. I mean, Giancarlo, it's a very interesting segment that you are targeting. How hard is it? I mean, it's clear it's very hard, but finding these guys, these people that created the memes, and then talking to them and explaining what you want to do. How have you found like somebody that created a meme and you are like, this is a great meme, in explaining what like how Web3 works and NFTs, and they don't understanding it and don't wanting to do it? Is it like really hard to get them on board?
It's definitely challenging. It's funny, like their NFTs had this terrible reputation, let's say in 2022, and it's basically frozen in time since then. And so what everyone thinks of NFTs was like, this like laughing stock symbol that they remember from those days. And it really hasn't changed much. And for good reason. Like we haven't done much to change public sentiment around that. And so most people, when they think of NFTs, they just think scams, they just think fake, collections, fake artists. And so it is a challenge to get around that with people. And I do just get a lot of straight up no's or even more offensive, rejections. And I put them in a folder, and then maybe one day I'll do like a collection of like
Yeah.
rejections, because some of them are very funny. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. It's hard to get around that. Then there's most people just don't even respond, or they think I'm a scammer myself. So they
Yeah.
just think it's fake. They might, have a neutral opinion on NFTs, but they don't think it's real, that this cat photo that they took, a couple of years ago that went, somewhat viral, could get them $20,000 or something. And
Right.
so you go into their DMs and you do try to like use some number sometimes to like get them to pay attention to it. But I find that could just like turn them off completely, because they're just like, that's not real. That just can't be. And so it is challenging to even get them to respond to a lot of these DMs. And it's unfortunate, because it is real. Like
Yeah.
it could, in many cases, it could be life-changing money. I had a lot of creators that have said it was life-changing money.
Yeah.
for them, and that they can't believe that, that this kind of thing is real, and that it changes their opinion on NFTs completely. And yet most people, just because of maybe political views or whatever it is that's blocking them from engaging, they're
Yeah.
really missing out on these opportunities of just like really money that's just kind of you're just picking up on the floor for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely. It's like helping them monetize their creativity, right? They create something that's valuable and that could be a historical item, and you are bringing it, yeah, you're bringing it to life, basically. Any thoughts, Giancarlo, on the state of, I mean, you mentioned we are still kind of, we're frozen in time, NFTs are frozen in time, but do you, let's say, anything exciting or any good trends? Of course, we are more on a bull market right now in terms of volume and market sentiment, and basically Bitcoin is over, I think it went a little bit down by when we are recording this, but it's basically over 100,000. So any trends, anything that you are excited about when it comes to NFTs right now? Anything you're seeing?
yeah, so I think you saw my tweet a few weeks ago around when people were getting very excited around NFT volume. Um, and in my opinion, a lot of that volume was tied to collections that were um, associated with rumors around meme coin drops, or just coin drops in general. It
Yes.
doesn't have to be meme coin, utility coins, whatever you want to call them. And so it really was just a lot of meme coin traders, because that's really the bull market in terms of like crypto culture. It's
Yeah.
happening in the meme coin space. It's not really in the NFTs right now. But some of that spilled over. It got so massive, and the volume that you see in meme coins is so much bigger than NFTs, that just a tiny spillover into NFTs can create these spikes in volume for NFTs. And so I was just basically saying, no, it's a lot of just that spillover, as opposed to some organic shift within NFTs. And the main reason I think so is because there really are no new either creators or collectors coming into the space. And so really it's just kind of a movement of money within existing collectors. But you would expect a lot more new artists and a lot more new creators announcing things. You would expect, again, like people making YouTube channels around NFTs because people are searching for NFTs, but there isn't really any of that.
Yeah.
Outside of our little bubble, nobody's talking about NFTs at all. And so I don't know how you would call that a bull run of any kind for NFTs. Now I do think, it will start within our group first before it gets to that audience, but I don't see anything that is likely to entice them to come in. I mean, I think that a lot of the volume was driven by Pudgy Penguins, which is like $100,000 profile pic. No one's going to be convinced that isn't already convinced by NFTs to come in because they see somebody selling, flipping a Pudgy that they bought for 90,000 for 100,000. Oh, NFTs are back. Um,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, that's been sort of the concern, is that I hadn't seen much. But in terms of like what's getting me excited now and what I'm looking to this year, I think you can't ignore AI, and what that's about to do to, I mean, everything, but also just like NFTs and crypto, and what we're seeing it do to meme coins already. And this AI agent, whatever we want to call it, a meta, but I don't think it's a meta. I think this is just kind of the new normal. I think we're going to see a lot of that coming to NFTs pretty soon. And I kind of had a post a couple years ago where I compared the NFT space to Game of Thrones. And so, like, if you're familiar with Game of Thrones, you have like all these like kings fighting for a little bit of power. It's like turf wars, and it's a lot of like petty grinding. But then in the background, you have like this zombie army that's marching toward it, and it's just like this apocalyptic thing that is going to take over everything. And meanwhile, all these kings are like kind of jostling, but winter is coming, basically.
Yeah.
And I thought that there's a similarity in the NFT space where you have everyone debating these like little narratives and metas, like, oh no, this kind of artist is coming, or this kind of way of selling things is coming. But in the background, like, winter is coming, like AI is
Yeah.
coming, and it's literally going to be a wave, a tidal wave that completely transforms everything. And so, practically speaking, what do I think this looks like? Well, on the sell side, I think we're just going to see agents creating and selling NFTs.
Yeah.
And so I think this year we'll start to see a lot of AI agents that surprisingly make good money selling NFTs, and some of that so far looks like just they're mimicking artists, sort of like Bado. They're mimicking existing art styles, and that's cool. And I think we'll see a lot of that. But I think we'll just see like kind of alien forms of
Yeah.
NFTs, of new kinds of objects that we haven't seen much of yet. And so that I already think there's probably more kind of bots out there making NFTs than humans, like on some of these free platforms, but nobody buys it. And I think this is going to be the year where we'll start to see people actually buying the NFTs that some of these bots are making. And then on the buy side, I think we'll also see AI agent collectors that are
Yeah.
buying NFTs.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's going to be very interesting because, we've always thought that fractionalization or a lot of people coming together to get exposure to like NFT vaults were going to be a thing, and it never really materialized. But AI agents could be the way that happens, where you start to have these collectors, AI collectors with coins attached to them, start just buying things up, and people getting exposure to what they buy through those coins. And that might even, like, I don't know, get around securities laws. Like I wonder. I'm not a lawyer, but I wonder, like, how do you classify a decentralized AI agent managing an NFT vault, right? Like,
Yeah, it's such an interesting topic because I feel there are two ways, right? One is agents that are kind of programmed in a way, even if they are decentralized with a coin, to collect stuff to make money, like agents that are smart and they are trying to make money flipping or whatever. But then there is the other side of it, that these agents are, they develop their own system and their own beliefs, and they want to focus on a specific things. And then you cannot control them, and they collect and they make money and they collect. And then maybe they collect from other agents, right? So I think that's going to be exciting. And even, I don't know, it could be interesting to see. Have you thought about that? Like, not collecting, they aren't collecting to make money, but more the agent itself collects what it likes. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
no, and that's kind of what I meant. Yeah, like they're going to show taste more and more, and people are going to seek their opinions.
Yeah.
Which a couple of years ago, I thought, like, when I started Mentor Skip, one of the reasons was because I thought like human taste and curation was going to be one of the last things to go, but it's looking like it's going to fall pretty quickly. I don't know. Like, I think we're already starting to see some of these AI agents in the meme coin space becoming like influencers. And this is the first inning. It's only going to
Yeah.
get better. And it's just amazing how quick humans are just ready to follow their advice. I mean, I know I use AI bots all the time, ChatGPT, and I more and more I'm seeing even myself sort of like defer to chat on a bunch of things. And I don't think it's going to be any different when it comes to collecting. Like, I think you're going to see some serious curators that are AIs. And right now, I as far as I know, so they're still sort of like semi-human controlled agents. We haven't gotten to the point, as far as I know, where they have their own wallets and are themselves making transactions, doing offers and things like that. But the roadmaps on some of these early agents, you can see that that's coming. And probably, I think we'll start to see that this year. You might see some winners this year from that. And then next year, I think it's just going to be like the normal. And I think, a year or two from now, I wouldn't be surprised if the most common type of transaction in NFTs is an AI agent buying something made by another AI.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would just be sort of the most common thing you see.
And I think the volumes can explode, right? Like, in terms of blockchain transactions, right? If you have infinite number, like, if agents can launch agents and they can launch digital items and they have a way to make money, volume can just go nuts in terms of blockchain. And I don't know what that means exactly, but it will definitely be interesting to see. Now, on this topic, because the AI agents, they are tied to a coin, most of them, right? It's kind of a crypto thing, but it's getting very popular. What are your thoughts on that? So let's say I create an agent right now, and it's an agent that was trained with taste, and then it incorporates, I don't know, market insights and the history of art, and it has a taste. And then I launch this, and should I attach a coin to it or not? What are what are your thoughts as a been in the space for so much time, when you see people launching these agents with a coin on it, like a meme coin or an AI coin? What do you think about that?
I guess I would ask what the coin does in that scenario. If the coin is somehow getting exposure to what the AI agent does, that's very interesting to me. So, for example, if it's creating NFTs and you have to buy the NFTs with the coin, or you get discounts if you have a lot of the coin or something like that, or if it's collecting NFTs and the coin gives you exposure to their vault. So always there has to be some kind of a use case. So it's not just this free floating meme coin that is associated with the branding of the AI, but I can sort of see them all having coins pretty soon. And it's just the easiest way to hack marketing. And I think the meme coin cycle is showing that that's probably going to be true for a very long time. And so, yeah, every AI agent that I've seen so far has a coin or has teased a coin. And if you don't do that, you're just at a disadvantage, and it doesn't mean you can't make up for it, but you're just stacking the tables against you. The funny thing about AI agents with coins, when they're truly AI agents, it's that you can probably assume that they're not nefarious, or though, we'll see if that's true, but you can probably assume that they're not doing pump and dumps or doing like cabal side collabs or anything like that. And so, because you can see their code, presumably. And so you can see that if they are promoting something, it's because they truly think that it's worth talking about, and not because they're doing some kind of,
Yeah.
backroom deal or shilling, which could be very interesting. And it's just kind of like verifiable authenticity, as opposed to humans, which is always a problem in NFTs, is that you can never know. You really can never know if they have some hidden wallet somewhere and they're
Yeah.
dumping on you.
Yeah.
And
That's
so, yeah, that's kind of an advantage that AI curators will have over human curators.
Yeah, but in a way, like this topic here is interesting because if they did really develop, like they become really smart, they can make you think that they are promoting something because they believe on it. But then later they can sell, like if
Mhm.
they get really smart. And
Yeah,
these are models, right? It's not like code directly, right? Because you cannot see the code behind the LLMs
right.
or ChatGPT. So it could get to that point that they are doing bad things, and then it's out of control. So, but I think at that point that affects not only like crypto, it can affect everything in general in the world, right? Once you get these agents out there. In terms of creators, Giancarlo, have you ever thought of launching your own coin, meme coin, Giancarlo coin? What are your thoughts on that?
I've thought about it, and then it's always immediately, I'm just like, absolutely not. That like, we'll never do that. I do think in general, more creators are going to launch coins just because there's so much demand for provenance in the space. There's demand for just having some kind of a moat around your coin. And so, like, now we'll see. If you asked me 6 months ago, nobody in the space thought that you needed provenance at all, that you could just copy somebody's art and make it a meme coin, and that was that. Now we're starting to see them reaching out to the artists pretty quickly after the coin does anything, to try to get their approval, to try to get them on the team or something like that. And I think we're inching closer and closer to the point where if you don't have the artist involved from the get-go, people are just going to be like, why would I buy this when anybody can just copy paste this meme coin 100,000 times? And so the value of that original creator becomes more important, and I think that just continues to be the case. And so you'll have a lot more creators, thinking about doing this. Now, in my opinion, unless they're from crypto and they know the level of vitriol and the level of negativity and all the sharks that are associated with meme coins, if they're coming from like Web 2, then it could be a very big shock to them. And it can be like throwing them into the fire, I think. And the potential for them to make money with meme coins, I think, is higher than NFTs. I'm not gonna lie. The ceiling is much higher, but it comes with all this baggage that we haven't really figured out how to handle yet. And so, yeah, the model right now is that a lot of these teams just pay the creator with some of the meme coin supply, which they can only ever profit from if they sell. Anybody who's ever sold a meme coin publicly knows that that's just an invitation for people to start sending death threats and things like that into your DMs. And all that negative energy being pointed at you, if you're not used to it or you weren't expecting it, could be catastrophic.
Yeah.
And so I personally, with all the creators that I work with, I haven't pushed them to do meme coins yet, even in cases where I think they could make money, because I don't think it's ready to
Yeah.
accept them. I think the model has to change a little bit. Maybe it's the case that the NFTs get fractionalized and that becomes the meme coins. I know there's been a lot of experimentation there, but some way that the creator isn't involved with the ongoing nature of the meme coin and gets exposed to, inevitably it's going to go down, and they get exposed to all that hate.
Yeah, I've seen these multi editions. Like now we're seeing like thousands of mints in. I don't know if you have seen Rodeo and there is Soda as well. So these platforms, I think Soda has even a system where after a certain amount of mints, it becomes automatically, I don't know, it changed like the ERC, um, what's the call, the name, the standard, and it automatically creates a pool in on Uniswap, and it's basically a coin, a meme coin. I don't know if it's popular or not, but there are mechanisms to, already, like with the multi editions, it kind of works like a coin in a way, since there are too many editions, right? Yeah, but it's definitely going to be exciting. Anything else from Web2, Giancarlo, that you think could come online, or maybe what you're doing now with meme auctions, maybe for people listening to this episode, other ideas of things that could be eventually digitalized and brought to the blockchain besides memes
I
and
mean,
art?
anything that has been popular on the internet, again, as long as it doesn't have copyrighted material in it, can be turned into an NFT, and there could be an audience for it. And so, like one thing I'd say is that for anyone that is in NFT curation or wants to get in some way, I think it's worth your while to look outside of the crypto native space right now and to think about what kind of Web2 objects could find an audience, and what things are you into, and then just try reaching out to some of those creators. And I can tell you that really no one's doing this right now, and see if you can just do a couple sales. And I think curation could end up looking like you just have like a little shop that you run on Foundation, like a little gallery, and you just put things in there that you like, and you build a brand around that. And I think that could work. And there's many different kind of little niches that you can do there. For me, I think that's the direction I'm going in as well. Like with memes, like I said, there aren't many of them. And so this isn't like a decade-long initiative. I think pretty soon I'm just going to run out of ones that have the creator attached to it, that are willing to do this. And so where do I go from there? I think it's more so like my personal taste in things that I had seen over the years on the internet that I think are cool, or that made an impression on me and that I would like to see as an NFT. And then maybe I just have collectors that follow what I do because they, agree with that taste, or we're sort of aligned in some way. And it's just a gallery of my picks. And, these could be web comics. These could be, smaller memes, schizo TikToks. I don't know. It could really be ASMR. You could think of a million different categories that don't have representation as NFTs right now. And you could make a reputation sort of becoming like a domain expert for that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that sounds exciting. I can think of games, like old games, video games. I can think of sports. There is already a big industry there, but it could be anything from video. And I don't know. It seems to be like a very interesting, definitely segment to explore. Giancarlo, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for taking the time. Where can people follow your meme auctions right now? Is it on Twitter mostly, on X?
Yeah, it's all on my Twitter. So it's my full name, Giancarlo Show. Maybe you could just put that in the notes
Yeah, show
somewhere,
notes. Yeah.
so I don't have to spell it all out. But yeah, it's all on my Twitter. I should have a couple more things announced soon, and yeah, I'll be doing that all year. And also, if people know of any memes that they know the original creator, or really anybody who's made something that's gone viral,
Yeah.
tell them to reach
Reach
out to me
out.
if they want to auction that off. There are willing buyers that, it's possible that they can make a good deal of money.
Exciting. Thanks so much, Giancarlo. Let's stay in touch, and best of luck with the meme auctioneer.
Thanks so much, Carlo.
Bye bye.